Hello and welcome to a new launch of the Starship. We are on hold. So the SpaceX broadcast is now saying it's going to start at 10 minutes past 11. So I'm just sat here by myself. Pete's hopefully will be joining us very soon. Shall we put myself on? I've just set it so I'm not on. I do love these things when technically it's not working, but it is. So lots of stuff that's going to happen today. Should I put my headphones on so I can hear what's going on? So there we go. That's better. I can hear myself now. So there's lots of new stuff that's happening today. They're going to try and land parts of the ship, not the main section. They're going to try and land that in water. But the booster section, they're going to try and land back at the base. So that's going to be very exciting because that's huge. And then I think they're going to try and land the Starship. Obviously, it's going to hit the water, but try and land it into the water to test that. But we have been told we have a plethora. That's a good word. A plethora of cameras all over the place on the Starship itself, at launch, and also drones and all kinds of different things going on, all helped by Starlink. So it's one thing promoting another, which is great because Elon hasn't got enough money, so he needs to promote everything he's got. So where are we? 4 minutes past 1. We're broadcasting from the UK, so hello to you. Don't forget to drop a mention in the comments. I know we have viewers, so I can see all the viewers across all the channels. We're actually broadcasting on the most channels we've ever had actually today. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 channels we're broadcasting, including X and YouTube and or Facebook channels. So hello to you. Obviously our main this is part of the Did You See podcast broadcast system. I look good in green. Oh, I've got a green t-shirt on. It's supposed to be turquoise, man. Have you got your link? It's Pete putting a comment on. So this is part of the Did You See podcast broadcasting system, which me and Pete do irregular podcasts about stuff that's on television and on streaming and on cinema. So go to Did You See ? On the YouTube, and we've also got a Facebook channel as well. And join that, subscribe to that, press the thing, do the bell, wave your knickers in the air. No, let's not do that. So yeah, do that, and then we can keep in touch. It's still saying 10 past 1, which is cool. I'm just gonna, as ever, I'm just trying to look at all the screens I have here. Let me just go and see what everybody else is doing. Just to see if there's any live footage anywhere else. Bear with me. You know what this is like. Please drop something on the comments so we know where you are. I'm seeing myself. That's weird. All right, here we go. You know what? It's not on that one. Still saying 10 past. So that's all good. So just hopefully you've got this on during your. Let's have a look. Someone's in Brownsville in Texas. Hello there, Marissa. BISD school trustee. Okay. That's nice to see that somebody's from there. There's a lot of people joining today, actually. Don't be put off because you're watching on a channel that may not have a lot of people on it, because I'm just looking at my YouTube channel. There's one person on there, but I've got where are we? We've got 56 watching at the moment across all the channels, which is excellent. But I'm just trying to find any type of feed other than the SpaceX feed. They're very peculiar because it used to be all over YouTube, obviously, SpaceX, and then they don't do anything on YouTube anymore. Oh, it's just Pete's on YouTube. There he is. Let me put his message up. Pete's on YouTube, and he's that one YouTube. Are you on the Oh, how many YouTube channels we got? Okay, I'm just looking at mine. I haven't got the Did You See one. I think it's the Did You See one he's on. Don't forget, Pete, when you join with that link, which I've sent you, you can then also share it across all your platforms now, because we've had an upgrade. Oh, he's on my personal one. Okay, all right. Let's switch account on here, and then oh, Darren's on. Yeah, I'm sort of here, but no clue what's going on. You've never got a clue regarding this. Never. It's about sending rockets up to space, man. That's all it's about. Well, we've got 8 minutes past. They're still saying it's 10 minutes past that their broadcast is about to start. Just because it starts doesn't mean it just launches straight away. Now, I have a meeting at 2, which could be an issue. Daz is Pete's saying hello to Daz, but I have to bring that up. Pete, finish whatever you're doing and get on here. We've never had so many people. This is a lot of people on here. Is there nobody else broadcast? Everybody's on hold. That's weird. Okay, hang on a minute. One of the space guys usually got it on. They sit there. That's just live commentary. That's just doing that. Okay, let's have a look. No, we don't want that. Turn the sound off it. We don't want to get struck off. Pete's saying he's busy. Yeah. Busy doing nothing. It's not delayed. We started the broadcast at 1 o'clock. It's not because it's not delayed. They have a window. This is not a proper launch, you see. Well, they're saying 10 minutes now. Okay, so I need someone to speak to. Someone join in. Darren, you doing anything? You want to join in? Let's have a look if I can get that over here. Add this into a different tab. It's all exciting. It's going to be good. This is today. Believe me. Honest, governor. This is going to be good. Oh, they've got. Oh, this. What I watched this. They've had this going. This broadcast. Let's stop that screen a second. They've had this broadcast going since. I think I was watching it 11 o'clock last night. So here we go. Let's put this up.
Satellites using Starlink and NASA's tracking and data relay satellite system. SpaceX broadcasts live views of Starship in space and stunningly during entry into the atmosphere, which began about 46 minutes after launch.
There's not
a camera mounted on a flap on the ship's exterior relayed a high-definition video through a Starlink terminal.
It's not actually. It's something else is up in space taking a picture of the star. I don't know how to do it.
Plasma.
Put him back on.
The telemetry signals from the Starship ended about 3 minutes later, when the Starship was at an altitude of about 40 minutes and presumed destroyed.
Right,
bringing IFT.
Darren's asking a question, which is fair enough. He can ask a question. So what he's saying is what's going to happen. This, Darren, is all to do with about going to the moon and going to Mars. That's all it's about. And it's this part, that picture there, that's the actual Starship. And that's what's going to go into space and land on Mars or land on the moon, however long it's going to take. And then it'll be able to take off again and then come back. Whereas obviously the Apollo missions sent up with the rocket, and then they had to send a little pod off the top of the rocket, and that'll land, and then a lot of that was left there, and send the section back up, and it reattaches itself. It's very complicated. Well, this is obviously this is complicated as well. But the idea is the booster will send the Starship up into space, because that's the most difficult bit, is getting it out of gravity, and then booster comes back and lands like the other boosters, but obviously it's quite a big booster, and then the Starship is supposed to, not today, but then it will go to the moon and then land there, and then can take off again and come back. But before they do that, they've got to send. No, warp drive is not ready yet. they've got to send lots of stuff up there because they've got to refuel up on the moon. So you'll see what happen when all this is all working. What will happen is they'll send lots of rockets up there to drop stuff off, like um, fuel, basically. I'm not sure. I don't know about that, but that's how it's going to work. So we're just going to wait and see how that moves. Let's go look this first again.
Million pounds of thrust to propel the fully reusable system into the harsh frontier of orbital space, underscoring the extraordinarily high stakes and potentially apocalyptic dangers of this test flight. The FAA has activated airspace and marine hazard zones extending out in all directions from the launch site, creating a sizable keep-out radius during today's targeted launch window. As humanity's multi-planetary future indisputably hangs in the balance, an abundance of caution and rigorous safety measures are being implemented.
On March 25th, SpaceX conducted a full static fire test of all 6 Raptor engines on the Starship S-29 prototype as part of preparations for the 4th flight of the Starship system.
I'm not an expert.
Then, on March 27th, SpaceX performed a single Raptor engine static fire test on the Starship S-29 prototype, completing its preparations for the 4th Starship test flight. A successful 4th launch and return of both stages would mark a truly historic achievement for SpaceX and founder Elon Musk's ambitious vision of making humanity a multi-planet species. While the development path has been extremely difficult, with many Starship vehicles lost, SpaceX has relentlessly iterated and improved the design with full reusability in mind to drive down the cost of spaceflight. If remaining test flights of Starship go according to plan in the coming months after this 4th launch attempt, the first operational cargo mission around the moon could occur before the end of 2024. NASA has already contracted Starship to deliver astronauts to the lunar surface beginning in 2025 as part of the Artemis program. The prospect of a fully reusable interplanetary Starship spacecraft capable of transporting up to 100 tons of payload to orbit is an extraordinary technical achievement that will open up new possibilities for exploration and utilization of space.
Let us know in the comments where you are.
Today's 4th launch of Starship will be watched and celebrated worldwide as humanity takes its next great stride in an ambitious journey to the stars.
The frenetic preparations and nail-biting anticipation have...
Oh, I see. Oh. You know what I did there? What I did there is I muted. I turned my volume down. Is that better? Can everybody hear me now? Why is it not on my headphones? Okay, now you can't hear anything. I'm going to put the audio back and I'm going to sit here quietly for a second.
Unfolds. Others have traveled from all corners of the United States and abroad specifically to witness this moment up close, cherishing every tick of the countdown as the fiery culmination of decades worth of hopes and dreams. Ever since I was a kid, I dreamed of the day humans would walk on Mars and explore the solar system beyond the confines of our home planet, said Felipe Gonzalez, an Austin, Texas-based software developer who made the cross-country pilgrimage to Florida's Space Coast for today's launch attempt. With IFT-4, it feels like we're finally on that path in a very real, tangible way. This could be a pivotal step to making humanity a multi-world species during my lifetime. Regardless of the ultimate outcome of today's audacious test flight, the extensive data and lessons returned will prove invaluable for SpaceX as the company continues iterating on Starship's revolutionary design through subsequent orbital test missions. Each progressive prototype will inch the transportation system closer to achieving the coveted capability to safely carry its first crew of pioneering astronauts to space and kick off the decades overdue voyage to Mars and the human exploration of worlds beyond. As the countdown clocks tick, all E's turn in unwavering focus to the towering launchpad edifice. Mere minutes now separate the world from potentially bearing witness to the dawn of a new era. One where the forebearers of tomorrow's Martian heroes thunder aloft atop a trail of fire, to etch their footsteps.
I think we're starting. Got a new video as well.
Hello and good morning. You're looking at a live view of Starship, the world's most powerful launch vehicle and by far the biggest flying object ever made. We're currently at T plus 31 minutes and 24 seconds awaiting our fourth flight test of Starship from Starbase, Texas, or what we here at SpaceX like to call the Gateway to Mars.
Okay, so you know exactly what's going on now. It's 31 minutes to go. So go and put the kettle on.
You can tell the crowd is already excited behind us. And for those of you following along, you'll know there's nothing more exciting, as you can hear, than to watch a developmental flight test.
That's absolutely right. Flight test days guarantee the maximum level of excitement, as you can hear behind us. If everything goes as planned today, we're supposed to have a liftoff in 30 minutes and Starship will reach the orbit. We're planning to see the same success as on the IFT-3 test flight or something, even much better today. Anyways, today our team hopes to see a great success. Right now you can hear what's happening in Starbase, Texas. Everyone is extremely excited to see the fourth flight of Starship, as well as the fateful speech of Elon Musk. I'll remind you that yesterday Elon announced a live speech that will, from his own words, change your life. But let's get back to the point. To the ship.
What is that? I don't know what that sounds important.
Allow us to fly the heaviest payloads ever flown, land humans on the moon again after more than a half century, and ultimately fly humans further into space than ever before, even to Mars. But the most important thing about Starship is that it's designed to be a fully, rapidly reusable, reliable rocket, or what we like to call the 4 Rs. And we'll talk more about those later in the webcast. But before going straight into the details of today's flight, let's talk about the achievements of IFT-3.
Ship 28 and Booster 10 lifted off from Orbital Launch Pad A in Boca Chica, Texas at 8:25 a.m. CDT. Right away, Booster 10 had all 33 engines running, just like Flight 2, and the booster kept all engines running during ascent once again. Then came most engines cut off and stage separation at T plus 2 minutes and 48 seconds, where Ship 28 would hot stage away from Booster 10. Hot staging once again worked perfectly, and as a bonus, Booster 10 would complete its flip maneuver and boost back burn, a first for Super Heavy. After the burn, Booster 10 would start its glide down to the Gulf of Mexico.
Booster 10 then glided down through the atmosphere, staying stable at first with its grid fins. Unfortunately, though, it suffered from a roll oscillation, rolling back and forth, and was unable to stabilize before crashing into the Gulf. Ship 28 would complete its burn.
Blew it up, basically. It didn't crash. They blew it up.
Minutes and 35 seconds. Ship 28 would become the first Starship to enter the coast phase after a successful launch. And thanks to Starlink, footage continued to be beamed back to Earth. During the coast phase, Ship 28 had a few objectives to complete before re-entry. So now Shiva will now remind you what those objectives were.
First, there was the payload door test, which appeared to open partially, allowing all the gases trapped inside the payload bay to escape out into space. There are indications that the door never fully opened, but this was inconclusive via the interior cams. Next up was the cryogenic propellant transfer test, where SpaceX would transfer around 10 tons of liquid oxygen from the LOX header tank to the main tank. SpaceX had a call out during the coast phase that the propellant demo had been completed. There is no video confirmation of this, but teams will analyze the data to determine its success. The final objective was to complete an in-space burn of a sea-level Raptor. However, this was canceled due to high roll rates on Ship 28 that could not be corrected. So SpaceX opted not to risk the vehicle and had it stay within the re-entry corridor.
Then came Ship 28's re-entry, but due to an attitude control problem that could not be corrected, Ship 28 re-entered on its side and engines first. However, thanks to the Starlink downlink, live plasma interaction could be seen as Ship 28 began to re-enter. Ship 28 would be lost during re-entry, but had already completed many new objectives, paving the way for Flight 4. Like the booster, we've made upgrades to Starship's upper stage based on Flight 2 learnings, such as improved leak reduction, fire protection, and changing the operations to increase reliability.
Now, back at the launch site, the new water-cooled flame deflector and other pad upgrades performed as expected, so the pad required minimal post-launch rework. And that's a big reason why we are ready to fly again today. The ground support systems are designed for rapid turnaround of the launch pad between flights, and the improvements we've made ahead of Flight 4 are getting us closer to that goal. And that brings us to today's test. The profile and the burn timeline are very similar to test number 3, with one major difference: the ship will attempt to splash down in the Indian Ocean rather than the Pacific. This puts us on a steeper trajectory than past flights and lets us test capabilities that we'll need for the future, like lighting a Raptor in space while maximizing public safety. So let's take a closer look at the flight test profile. Approximately in 26 minutes, Super Heavy B-11 booster will ignite its 33 Raptor engines, and we'll see the beautiful liftoff from Starbase. After 3 minutes from the launch, we'll see the booster separating from Starship itself. That means it'll light its engines while still attached to a partially lit booster. The ship's engines will then remain lit for about 6 minutes during the ascent before entering a coast phase.
After that, the booster will make maneuver and we'll be able to see its reverse acceleration down from the orbit, repeating the success of the third launch of Starship. We're hoping hardware upgrades made for this flight will get the booster closer to executing a landing burn in the Gulf of Mexico. In the meantime, Starship will coast for about 30 minutes at altitudes between 150 and 235 kilometers, and the ship will attempt to fire a single Raptor engine for our first ever relight of a Raptor engine in space. And from there, the ship will head toward its destination, splashdown location, stage separation, and a full ascent burn with the upper stage. It will be at an added altitude and trajectory below orbital, meaning Starship won't have to fire its Raptor engines for a deorbit burn, and it will naturally come back into the atmosphere no matter what.
That is so Darren's just said something which is quite true. Yeah, they're not doing a proper landing. I thought they were actually going to land the booster, but they're not doing that. They're going to a pretend landing into the sea.
This flight. Now, with the exception of Falcon, this is no different from what happens with most rockets flying today that are expended or fall into the ocean after they complete their mission. Eventually, though, we will land and recover Starship boosters and ships, just as we do with Falcon 9 and Heavy boosters, where we recovered 283 to date. Starship's rapid reusability is key as we begin missions to the moon and beyond.
Even though recovery is not planned, the telemetry and data we receive all the way to the end is what we're looking for, particularly with regard to the ship's temperatures during reentry and how the heat shield will perform. The data that we gather today, of course, will help us continue to build a rapidly reusable Starship for the future. Now, much like our first, second, third flight tests, today also still just a test. Our goal is to gather data to continue iterating and ultimately improve Starship.
That's exactly right. The primary goal for Flight 1 was to clear the pad, and we did that and got a lot of great data that helped us improve the vehicle and the pad infrastructure that you see today. The primary goal of Flight 2 was to get all the way to stage separation, which we did, and even got a little extra.
For Flight 3, we've added some ambitious tests highlighted by an attempt to transfer several tons of propellant between the tanks inside Starship itself, as well as the first ever relight of a Raptor engine in space and the opening and closing of Starship's payload door. When Starship takes astronauts to the lunar part of NASA's Artemis program, it will be refilled in space by a Starship tanker spacecraft before boosting itself into a lunar orbit, like you see here. Transferring a large amount of cryogenic liquid in space has never been done by anyone ever. So we'll be looking to get data on some of the fundamental physics in play here, like managing pressures, temperatures, propellant settling, all as we prepare for eventual ship-to-ship transfers. The ability to refill starships once in orbit will be critical for landing on the moon and is a key technology for enabling deep space exploration and ultimately flights to Mars.
Now, we're also attempting the first ever relight of a Raptor engine in space, and we'll need that capability for...
So, Darren, we have to go for all these testing phases to get to where we stick a man on the moon.
To re-enter on today's test. We are intentionally flying this new steeper trajectory so we can test things like engine relay.
Or you've been sarcastic saying we've never been to the moon yet. I'm not sure what you mean. Did Kubrick direct? I'm not getting into it.
The vehicle as it flies through the Earth's atmosphere at hypersonic speeds, or more than 5 times the speed of sound. We expect it'll look something like this animation on your screen with the heat shield tiles facing down. We'll use the Earth's atmosphere to brake the vehicle and then get us into a controllable regime as we go towards splashdown. Now, we did validate Starship's ability to fly and land at subsonic speeds during our suborbital flights several years ago, and gathering data on the aspects like heating and vehicle control while we're traveling way faster will become critical to eventually bringing Starships back from space for rapid reuse.
We'll also attempt to open and close Starship's payload door for the very...
Adverts? They've never put adverts in before. Oh, we're taking the adverts off. We're not having adverts. Let me just take that down a minute, and we'll... I'm just going to see if they've got... here we go. Here we go. Let's go over there. Here we go. Excellent. Let's just get that back up there. Darren is still... I'll let everybody read that one. It's not, there we are. Big.
Of space. And Starship is designed for vertical takeoff and landing on any hard surface. The ship is also outfitted with 4 flaps to help aerodynamically control the vehicle's attitude during atmospheric flight and enable a precise landing.
And in between the first and second stages is our hot stage, our newest separation technique, which we saw in action during flight tests 2 and 3. The body of Starship is wrapped in a heat shield made up of 18,000 hexagonal ceramic tiles designed to insulate the vehicle during atmospheric entry, where temperatures can be as high as 2,600 degrees Fahrenheit or over 1,400 degrees Celsius. Speaking of those heat shield tiles, re-entry was a pretty exciting first for our team, and Starlink allowed us to gather critical data about this stage of flight.
Reusability significantly reduces the cost of space.
Is that a link? Is that a leak?
Humans a multi-planet.
Need to get that fixed.
Starship is designed for rapid reusability, which means the booster and the ship need to re-enter Earth's atmosphere and land back precisely at the launch site.
With each flight test, we gather more and more data to help hone Starship's re-entry capabilities. The more information we have from each flight, the quicker Starship development can proceed. One way to gather more information is to improve communication throughout the flight, including re-entry, where historically there has been a communications blackout.
To do this, we equipped Starship with Starlink terminals to expand its communication.
So Darren's asking when they're going to stick pilots in it. I don't think it's going to happen soon, but maybe. I mean, Musk has got is making the statements in a minute. So let's see what he says. It's going to be earth-changing. I don't know what that means. These are all the Starlink pads. Oh.
To create considerable drag during re-entry. Traveling at about 27,000 kilometers per hour, or almost 17,000 miles per hour, Starship compresses the air in front of it, causing the temperature of the air to rise and ionize, turning it into plasma. This plasma layer interferes with communications by absorbing and reflecting radio waves, leading to the communications blackout we've seen historically with spacecraft during atmospheric reentry. With Starship, most of that plasma is built up around the front and sides of the vehicle, leaving an opening downstream where we're able to point our Starlink terminals. And with Starlink also operating at a higher frequency than traditional space-based communications, we're able to power through any residual plasma to provide real-time video and data at high speeds back to the ground.
Super cool. We actually got to see this in action on Starship's last test, Flight 3, which had the first ever live HD video of a spaceship re-entering the atmosphere. SpaceX engineers were able to gather data on the performance of Starship as it re-entered the atmosphere and watched the heat shield in action. Now, the physics of re-entry are extremely hard to replicate perfectly on the ground, so access to this data is an invaluable tool for rapid iteration. In fact, one cool observation from that Flight 3 was seeing how shockwaves form at different parts of the vehicle and how they interact to put pressure on the ship, especially the flaps. This is really valuable for Starship since no spacecraft has ever flown with 4 movable flaps like what we use for aerodynamic control. Starship's greatest strength will be rapid and reliable reusability, and Starlink has become a critical tool to make that a reality.
Over the next few flights, we'll continue to improve the Starlink performance on Starship, eventually enabling more views and enabling more data to be transmitted in real time. And we'll keep experimenting during entry. You might have noticed a few tiles missing or looking different near the bottom of Starship. We intentionally placed one thin tile and removed 2 tiles completely. In their place, we now have sensors to see how hot things get without the tiles in those locations, while also testing some backup thermal protection options. Ideally, we expect Starship's reentry to improve on each flight, thanks in part to this wealth of new data. But if getting to space is hard, returning from space is even harder.
That's right. No one has ever succeeded in creating a fully and rapidly reusable heat shield. So we could see some spectacular failures before we get this right. But with communications improving on each flight, we will...
You know, that's what that's saying to me, that statement is, Dan. You got too much time on your hands.
15.5 minutes until our next liftoff attempt. In the meantime, let's take a look at some of the technology we have in development as we prepare to head to the moon in future missions.
Starship will be taking astronauts to the moon as part of NASA's Artemis program. Next year, we plan to demonstrate ship-to-ship propellant transfer, which will be important for our upcoming moon missions. Today, we're actively testing a lot of hardware that will make exploring the moon possible. One recent series of tests brought together the key pieces we'll see when landing back on the moon: Starship, spacesuits, and astronauts.
Together with Axiom and NASA, our teams put 2 astronauts in pressurized Axiom spacesuits and practiced the first steps of going to the lunar surface. The team used test builds of a Starship airlock, as you see there, and elevator to gather data on how well future Artemis astronauts will be able to move around once fully suited. Tests like this are incredibly helpful for engineers designing these systems, as they have the opportunity to get feedback directly from experienced astronauts Peggy Whitson, who is on the right of this photo, and Doug Wheelock, who's on the left. You can see them in action during this elevator test.
SpaceX will perform one uncrewed demonstration flight before NASA's Artemis 3 mission, which will be the first human surface expedition since 1972. After those first expeditions, we'll be ready to fly more people along with everything it takes to build a moon base. In many ways, Artemis feels like an extension of the human spaceflight work SpaceX and NASA have been partnering on for some time now. In fact, we just celebrated the anniversary of the Demo 2 mission.
That's right. Just 4 years ago, on May 30th, 2020, SpaceX launched the first crewed test flight of our Crew Dragon spacecraft. Dragon carried NASA astronauts Douglas Hurley and Robert Behnken to the International Space Station in the first crewed orbital spaceflight launched from the United States since the final Space Shuttle mission in 2011, and the first ever operated by a commercial provider. You can see Bob and Doug there on your screen. That was certainly a memorable
the good old days of Bob and Doug. Yes.
that we fondly think back on. And it's exciting to think about Starship being the next to take its first astronauts to the moon. In tandem with Starship development, all of our operational human spaceflight missions are helping us prepare for those future trips to the moon. Our upcoming private astronaut mission, Polaris Dawn, you can see the crew there on your screen. They will play a big role in testing procedures that will be relevant to our moon and eventually Mars missions. We're looking forward to the third Polaris Dawn mission, which will be the first crewed Starship flight.
The Polaris Dawn crew will attempt to reach the highest apogee ever flown by a spacecraft, and they'll also be performing a spacewalk, or extravehicular activity, wearing SpaceX's newly designed spacesuits. They'll also be testing space-based communications, which will be critical to future deep space missions. The Polaris Dawn mission is currently targeted to launch no earlier than July of this year, so stay tuned, because that is going to be a very exciting mission to watch. In the meantime, at T-minus 12 minutes, let's check back in with Dan on today's countdown.
Hey, thanks, Jesse. Everything continues to go real smoothly. It's been a real quiet day so far. The board looks really clean, not tracking any impediments to a launch just under 12 minutes from now. Prop loads continuing. Looking at the numbers real quick, we're about 85% full on the ship. We did pause to start filling those header tanks on ship. Again, those are the two smaller tanks in the very top of the nose cone that we're going to use for that attempted landing burn with ship. And with the booster, we're just at about 75, 76% or so on our methane and LOX, so getting pretty full there. Those are going to continue down to about 3 minutes and 20 seconds before liftoff. That's when we'll close out all the prop on the ship. And then T-minus 2 minutes and 50 seconds on the booster. A lot of work also going on in the background. Our range safety teams working to make sure the area, not just around the pad, but in the sea space out in the Gulf, and also in the anticipated entry point in the Indian Ocean are clear. We're not tracking any blockers, any boats, anything like that in the zone right now, but their work literally continues right up until those last couple of minutes. So they're working pretty hard to make sure everything stays clear. But right now the range is green. I already talked about it in the beginning. It looks a little bit cloudy, but weather not a concern today. Really light winds. We only had about a 5% chance of violation when we started this morning, and that's held. So everything continuing to look really good for launch so far. The pad itself is getting ready. Reminder that we're going to light those engines about 4 minutes before it actually takes off. So you'll see them start, the 33 engines on Super Heavy start to light prior to that T0. And then about 2 seconds after, we'll start to see first motion. But everything looking great. Just coming up on 10 minutes until launch. Getting excited down here. Ready to feel the rumble. I'll send it back to you guys over in Hawthorne.
So that's what's going to happen. That was very nice and concise. So we've still got a lot of people watching. So just jump on your comments, whatever platform you're on, and just drop in where you are. That's all you have to put. You don't have to put your name in. And just tell us where you are, so we know where everybody is. Because we've got Elf. He's dropped in. He's just expecting. Don't know. Is he expecting excitement? I don't know. Let's just find out. We've got who else we got? We got Darren's commented. Pete, who's not here yet, he's commented. He's only down the road. So Darren's in Bude, so he's a bit further afield. And we've got somebody who's in Brownsville, Texas. So that's interesting. But that is only 4 people, and there's a lot of people watching. So just stick in your comments. Just stick where you are. And we'll give you a little shout out, or just put it up on the screen. I don't know if you're embarrassed about it. I don't know why you're embarrassed where you want to be. I'm not sure about that. Let's go back to listen to what they're saying.
Test flights like these provide critical data through every phase of flight, which will get us closer and closer to full reusability. And we have a lot more tests planned for this year. When we start recovering Starship boosters, we'll want them to return to the launch site for a quicker turnaround, which you can see in this animation on your screen. And that's when the tower reveals its dual purpose. After launch, the arms or chopsticks on the tower will help guide the booster into position to ensure a precision landing.
Hi, Matt.
And our goal for the near future is to have 4 launch towers, 2 in Cape Canaveral. And
he's asking questions again. He's very considers he's not interested really. He asks a lot of questions. Well, do you remember? Just take that off because I don't want him shouting at me. Do you remember? I think we had a Starlink launch and the rockets took a different path. I think it was, and it went. Oh no, was it Starlink or was it going up to the space station? Anyway, it took a different path, and it went over the UK, and I saw it. But it was obviously at night with a very clear sky. I think by the time it's about, because obviously it's going sort of straight up and then sort of goes that way, so it goes around the Earth. It's I think at night you can see it. I don't think you're going to see like a plane level of visuals when it goes across, but we'll see. Well, we won't see it today anyway because it's going in a completely different direction altogether. It's going in a completely different... Yeah, okay. Dan remembers that, yeah. So, yes, just stick in where you are and we'll drop you on the screen. Say hello to all the other people who are just sat there watching this with us. Because it is interesting. And we can't wait to see when's Musk talking? Oh, Matt's saying the chap in Butte. Well, Darren, did you? Oh, yeah, we saw it. Yeah, we did see. Same as me, you see it, I think. Yeah. Right. Okay. Let's. We got 6 minutes to go. We're just waiting for Musk. Oh, what's he saying?
It's great. We're getting ready to launch. We are just under 6.5 minutes away. You can see when we throw up the graphics for prop load that we're almost closed out. Ship more than 90% full. Those header tanks are done, and then the boosters right coming up on 90% real soon. So we're going to see those close out in the next couple of minutes. Ship's going to end at about 3 minutes and 20 seconds. It'll be fully loaded. And then booster at about 2 minutes and 50 seconds. After all the props loaded on, we go through a lot of steps to safe ground systems. You're doing things called pushbacks, where you're just clearing all of those lines on the ground of propellant before we lift off. But once we're done, we're going to have 10 million pounds of liquid propellant on board Starship to help power the most powerful vehicle ever designed. If we do hold, we have a built-in hold gate at T-minus 40 seconds. We can hold there for about 30 minutes or so today. If we need to wait for final pressure checks if we have anything on the range, anything like that. Did just get that the range is green. So we are coming up 5 minutes and 20 seconds away. We are not planning to hold at T-minus 40 unless we trip some kind of hold alarm, something like that. So we could blow right through that gate and go right to launch. Don't be shocked if we hold at T40, though. And if we do, we can hold for a couple of minutes and then keep going. Our window is open all the way until 9 a.m. today.
Now, once we pass through T-minus 40 seconds, a number of events will occur in rapid succession. The ground spin and ignition systems will come up to flight pressure, and the ship will go to internal power.
Now, after that, the quick disconnect arm lockout is removed in preparation for retraction shortly after T0. Gas lines connected to the booster and ship are vented down, and once we pass T-minus 40 seconds, we still have the ability to recycle the count under certain conditions back to T-minus 40 seconds and hold there to assess what happened and if we can proceed again to T0.
However, once the water for the deflector system begins flowing at T-minus 10 seconds, any issue after that would be an automatic scrub for the day, as teams would need to refill the deflector's water tanks, as well as the lock storage tanks at the tank farm before making another attempt. So, as Dan mentioned earlier, we are not planning to hold at the optional T-minus 40 second mark. That moment basically is what would allow teams to wait for final checkouts or assess prop levels or avionics, vehicle pressurization, the range, the weather. Weather is 95% go, as you can see from these incredible drone views that we have and pad cams. It is a beautiful day. Of course, we have some clouds billowing from the locks there.
Yeah, and again, a reminder that the payload for this mission is data, and our primary goal is to get ship through the extreme heat of reentry today. We're very excited to see that. We did get very close on Flight 3, so I'm excited to see how these iterations that we've made to the vehicle will help improve our chances of success today.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, just as a reminder for the booster, now we are not attempting to recover any hardware today, both either on ship or booster. For the booster, we will be attempting to perform a landing burn to have a soft splashdown in the Gulf of Mexico. We made some improvements from our Flight 3 learnings, so hopefully that will work and we'll see a successful soft splashdown. For the ship, we're hoping to demonstrate controlled re-entry, including a flip maneuver and landing burn, and that will be followed by splashdown in the Indian Ocean. That is the same target as we had on Flight 3, so everything should look pretty similar in that regard. And we just heard the call out there that all prop load is closed out, so at this point, there is like 10 million pounds of propellant on board Starship, which is incredible.
This is getting very exciting. We are just about 2 minutes away from T0.
Oh, is this Musk? He's supposed to be making a statement.
And as Jesse just said, we are under 2 minutes away. So prop load is complete. All the fill drain lines into ship and booster have closed. Right now we're doing the pushback, so clearing out all those ground lines of propellant. And that'll be completed over the next couple of seconds. We're coming up on that T-minus 40 mark. Again, not planning to hold. If we do, or if we get a hold after we pass it, we can snap back to that T-minus 40, and then we can stay there for about 30 minutes or so if any other issues crop up.
I'll just turn that off. Pete, you there?
I'm here.
That's all right, Ian. We just...
Yeah, I'm here.
We thought Musk was going to say something, but he obviously is not. So I think we're just going to go. It's going to go straight into launch.
That's about how much time it takes for the vehicle to take all of those actions, which is why we hold there. But all of that happens automated. You do a final checkout of the TVC, the thrust vector control, how we're going to steer, and then we see liftoff. So we're under a minute away.
All cheering in the background. I always wonder what they're cheering at.
45 seconds and counting.
Good event game, Matt.
All right, now as we close in, we are past the 40-second mark. So let's listen in. Flight Director Ty Huntington's going to take us through one more time for a Starship liftoff.
T-minus 15. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. We have the stuff.
Vehicle is pitching downrange.
Oh my god, how cool is that?
It doesn't look real, does it?
No.
Say it every time, it just doesn't look real. Weird.
All right, 30 seconds into flight. The rumbles are still building here in the Raptor's nest. We're seeing 32 out of 33 engines lit on the Super Heavy right now. Coming up shortly is going to be max Q, that maximum aerodynamic pressure as we go uphill on the vehicle.
Max Q.
All right, we just passed through max Q, so we're going to continue on up. We still have about a minute and 30 seconds until we get to stage separation. Starship now flying faster than the speed of sound. All right, so you got a couple of views. You got some ground trackers in your top camera there. You're looking down from the top of the booster in the bottom left, and then a camera in the top flap of the ship looking back in the bottom right. So getting a couple of different looks as Starship heads uphill.
Hey, Matt.
Once we get the hot staging, a lot of things happen
Check your text.
all at once simultaneously. We're going to light the engines on the ship, starting with the RVACs first, and then the 3 center sea level engines before we're separated. All of that exhaust gets plumed out the side of the hot stage, and then the ship will separate itself.
Oh, you know
all
what?
but the
Ignore
3
that.
center engines
Ignore
on the
everything I've just
booster
said.
are going to
Ignore it.
shut down. So the booster
Is it something to do with your end?
rest while we go
I
through
got
this
two. I
hot
got
stage
2 of you
maneuver.
open.
After that, the booster is going to do its flip, start heading back.
Yeah, you on the YouTube, weren't you?
Its own power
Yeah.
on its way to space. So that should be coming up in just about 30 seconds from now. As of right now, still looking in like 32 out of 33 Raptors lit on the booster. And we'll start to see those stagger down. They're going to turn off in banks, so you'll see the lights on the bottom left screen of the engines that are active start to turn off in different groups, and you'll see those 3 center ones lit.
Booster engine cut off. Ship ignition.
Oh wow.
Stage separation confirmed.
Boost back burn start up.
Acquisition is Houston.
Oh man, look at that.
Hot stage confirmed.
Obviously,
Ship
that's all
under
fake
its own
'cause it's flat
power.
Earth.
Booster boosting
Oh,
back.
of course, yeah.
Looks like all 13 are lit. Kate, we got a booster on the way back to the Gulf and a ship on the way to space.
Acquisition signal. Stennis.
Ship chamber pressures are nominal.
Ship power and telemetry nominal.
All right, the first stage currently performing the boost back burn. This is expected to last a little over 1 minute. This propels the booster back toward the coast, taking it to a landing in the waters of the Gulf of Mexico. As you can see on your screen in the bottom left-hand corner, we were only using the 13 center engines from here on.
Boost back burn shut down.
Heard confirmation there of good boost back burn shutdown.
Stage 2 tank pressures are nominal.
Lots of excitement. So right here, this is our view of the jettisoned hot stage. As we mentioned, this is a temporary fix to help reduce the weight of the booster, the Super Heavy booster. Future iterations will have a lighter weight integrated hot stage structure that won't need to be jettisoned. Now, after we jettison that hot stage, the booster will begin to attempt its water landing in the Gulf. In the meantime, the ship will coast for about 40 minutes or so up to an altitude of 214 kilometers. And after its coast phase, it will attempt a controlled reentry, including a flip maneuver and a landing burn just before splashing down in the Indian Ocean. But as a reminder, we are not attempting.
Trajectory nominal.
Good news there. Trajectory is looking good for the ship, which is on the right-hand side of your screen.
I wonder what
Go on.
I wonder what the phone call is like when they go, all right,
Go.
can we land
What
parts
call?
of our spaceship in your ocean? Do you mind?
Who do they have to ask?
Well, that's the question, isn't it?
Okay, so I'll just turn the sound off so I can hear.
That's all right.
So this this is all boring now.
Well,
nothing's going wrong.
Well, yes, there is no explosions, or just keep your eye on the background just in case any kind of craft appears.
Don't
passing.
start. No, don't start that. So it's well, we're not going to sit around for this because it's 40 minutes it takes to go around the planet, and then it's going to splash down in the Pacific Ocean. So I will leave this link live so everybody can see it. It's just some of the shots are amazing, though.
That's that. If that was a clearer picture at the top, it'd be perfect. That look at that.
Well, that's the sun.
I know, but you'd like some HD there, wouldn't you?
You what? Sorry.
You'd like some HD there, wouldn't you?
Well, yeah, I think they've. This is the booster coming down. I thought most of it is in HD, but I think it's just because the glare. because obviously you forget we're protected from the sun, obviously on the planet, obviously in multiple ways. But that glare when you're up there, supposedly not being up there, but supposedly is quite. It's much brighter than it is on Earth.
We start a GoFundMe to build our own rocket.
I don't think it's gonna work. Don't forget this nearly broke Musk.
That's true.
When he tried, what's going on here? Whoa! His bit's falling off. It's only going through the cloud. Oh, is this the Gulf of Mexico that's landing, isn't it? This is.
Oh, hello.
That's quite cool.
Yeah. Slow down so we don't break it.
No, it doesn't matter because they're gonna have to just. They're not gonna. I don't think they're gonna get it. Look, the sea's on fire. That's it. It's gone. Oh, they're all happy. Lovely. Yes, very good. Oh, they're very excited today.
They are, aren't they?
I just wanted to know what Musk was going to say, because it's supposed to be this groundbreaking comment he's supposed to be, or speech he's supposed to make. It's going to change everybody's view on the planet.
Yeah.
No, I don't know.
Minute. Ship is going to shut
Anyway,
off
I'm going to
its
jump off
Raptor
now.
engines,
We're going to leave this going.
which we see right there.
Okay.
And we'll try next week to do a.
As we mentioned before, today's test flight is not an orbital flight, but rather one that demonstrates the Starship's orbital capability.
Are you on a delay?
No.
Oh, okay.
So right now we are under power with just the 3 center Raptor engines.
Can you still hear the video?
Expecting those.
I can now.
Just there, we could see.
Oh, I can't hear it. It's gone off now.
It's gone now. Yeah.
Hang on a minute. That's weird. Oh yeah, I can. Yeah, I can. Sorry, it's in my headphones. Right. Okay. So we're gonna fall off. We'll leave the video streaming. Thanks for joining us today on Did You See Space Adventures? And we'll be back next week for a proper Did You See episode. So see you all. Bye bye.
It's been a long road getting from
there's no titles because we're leaving this running.
Okay. All right. See ya.
Just wave bye bye, Pete. Bye.
In Florida. But the ship, we just heard successful orbital insertion, so it's right where it needs to be and is now going to continue on its way to coast until it comes to reentry. But I mean, the booster, successful boost back burn, jettison the hot stage, and then a landing burn. It looked like we saw 12 of the 13 engines light up, and then that first ever soft splashdown in the water. So a whole lot still to come. Ship now on its way to its primary objective of entry. That's going to be coming up in just under 40 minutes from now. So a lot still to come, but wow, what a 9 minutes to start this mission off. So can't wait to see what entry is going to show us. But that launch was incredible. Back over to you, Jesse and Kate.
Wow. I am still trying to catch my breath here. That was some incredible views that we have never seen before. It has been nonstop since liftoff. And with the booster having completed its job for the day, we're going to take a short break for about the next 28 minutes, and we'll return while we're going to take a break while the ship is continuing to coast before re-entry.
Exactly. As with Flight 3, Starlink may enable us to talk with the ship through re-entry with no communication blackout. We are still testing Starlink during this phase of flight, so of course nothing is certain. However, if we do have views, we will be sure to bring those to you live. Views such as the one, that we had. Well, of course, because I said it went away. So we will try to bring those to you live.
Exactly. Views or no views, we'll see you back here at T plus 40 minutes for coverage of Starship's re-entry, flip maneuver, landing burn, and splashdown.
Expected loss signal, Key West. Expected loss signal, Cape Canaveral. Acquisition signal, Puerto Rico.
RVAC pre-valves are open. Expected loss signal, Puerto Rico.
Processing signal, RDB stock. Starship is flying to entry attitude.
Welcome back to Starship's fourth flight test. It has been an exciting day so far. We had an on-time liftoff of 7:50 a.m. Central Time, followed by successful hot staging, stage separation, jettisoning of the hot stage structure, an epic super heavy booster water landing in the Gulf of Mexico, the first successful return of the super heavy booster. So that was incredible to see. And right now, the ship is in space. As you can see here by this view, we're looking at one of the flaps of Starship, one of four. You can actually see a close-up side detail of some of those hexagonal heat shield tiles. Now, coming up around T plus 49 minutes, the ship will re-enter the Earth's atmosphere. As a reminder, the primary goal of today's flight test is for a ship to make it through the extreme heat of re-entry. This is typically a portion of flight where we don't have communications with the spacecraft because it's re-entering at or around orbital velocity, which is about 8 kilometers per second or roughly 5 miles per second. At those speeds, the spacecraft moving through the atmosphere results in friction and creates a plasma field around the vehicle. That blanket of plasma distorts, as you can see, that plasma blanket, which you can kind of see here, distorts communication frequencies. So we're left with a brief blackout in communication.
Yeah, that's right, Kate. And Starlink's what's really allowing us to capture as much data as possible, especially through this reentry. Updated animation landing burn. I hope we get to see it for real today. But these live views that we're getting now and we're going to continue to get are through Starlink. That's going to allow us to get as much data as possible, which we've said it before, we're going to say it 9,000 times. The data is the payload on these flights. So as much as we can learn, that's just going to pay dividends on all of our future flights and help us get Starship to an operational phase. Reentry, obviously a really critical phase of the flight, and it's the one that we're now most focused on cracking to get us closer to that full reusability. Starlink is going to be able to send us data back all the way through reentry. We've done some additional testing, and we're expecting to be able to get data from Starlink thanks to its high frequency and kind of the orientation and everything of Starship all the way through reentry. And then got a new view here. We have two external views. We had this one on flight 3. We've got two for this one. And we're going to continue adding views as we continue to evolve Starship. Again, this is an experimental vehicle. Believe me, I want as many camera views as you all do. So huge shout out to the AVI and the software teams and everybody that's been working with us. We're getting more cameras on Starship, not just because it looks cool, but this provides an incredible insight into reentry, which is, historically a really tough window to look through. The physics of reentry are insanely intense. One of my favorite NASA astronauts, Victor Glover, recently described it as with the forces and the flows and the temperatures, it's like pointing at a raging river in one spot and saying, tell me exactly what's happening right there. And that's what a ship is experiencing as it goes through, as it's moving through the atmosphere at, more than 5 miles a second and heating up to thousands of degrees. So just having visual representation, just being able to see what's happening is incredibly valuable. So these views are going to be through Starlink. We've got this one. This is in one of the forward flaps looking back. So if you see it rotating around, that's because, again, it's embedded in one of those forward flaps. So as we get through and we start to build up density in the atmosphere, this view is going to move around as the flap does. And then the other one we had a little bit earlier is looking at one of the other forward flaps on the other side. Eventually, we're going to keep adding more cameras to Starship, get a couple of different views from the outside of all the different areas, and then also eventually to be able to see payloads once they're deployed. So a lot more exciting stuff coming up in the future. But right now we're getting closer to reentry. Again, we're going to be moving at hypersonic speeds at more than 5 times the speed of sound. We're going to see that plasma start to build. So, Kate, Jesse, excitement coming up.
Yeah, as you can see with that view on your screen, again, high def brought to us by Starlink. We can see the plasma beginning to build as the ship is getting closer to the Earth's atmosphere. Now, let's talk a little bit about how Starship will survive reentry, hopefully, and control itself.
Exactly. We've been talking about this entire flight test. There's 18,000 hexagonal ceramic tiles surrounding the bottom portion or the Earth-facing side of the ship.
Through 100 kilometers altitude, good altitude for entry.
Great call outs there. Now, during atmospheric reentry, the vehicle is going to see temperatures as high as 2,600 degrees Fahrenheit or over 1,400 degrees Celsius. So those tiles are there to help protect the vehicle from this extreme heat.
Yeah, and the flaps will help control it. Now, one noticeable difference I see immediately, those flaps are not moving as much as they were on Flight 3. So that is a great sign, right? We had unplanned loss of roll control on Flight 3, so we added some additional thrusters, and we can see that they're working well, and we have a much more stable view. So those flaps, there's 4 of them, 2 at the top and 2 at the bottom. They're made out of stainless steel. And they help steer the ship, which, as we can see, the plasma continuing to build. Now, if the ship survives reentry, it will have to perform a flip maneuver as well as a landing burn. We saw this demonstrated in a couple of high-altitude flight tests back in 2020, 2021. Similarly,
temperatures increasing on the nose within expected ranges.
Great news there. It sounds like the temperatures that we are getting during this point, which again, we usually don't get during spaceflight because of this plasma. We're getting this live. This is a great news. So similarly to, for example, the serial number 10 test that we saw a couple years ago, we're hoping to duplicate that again today. Hopefully we will see it live. And basically the 3 center engines of the ship will reignite and gimbal or point to help flip the ship until those engines are pointing down so that it can land vertically using Raptor's thrust.
And as you can see, even from the beginning of the program, we've designed Starship to land on Mars where there are no runways or other humans to help out. We also want rapid reusability, so we're doing...
The vehicle is passing through 85 kilometers altitude. The flaps have control of the vehicle.
Great news. Flaps have control of the vehicle. That's exactly what we want to hear for this flight test.
Yeah.
Again, we are going to be doing a propulsive landing instead of a more traditional means like parachutes. And we are expecting re-entry to begin here in just about a minute. Re-entry, an awesome view that we have here.
Starship remains on a good entry trajectory.
This is the same view that we had when we first returned from the coast phase. Again, this is looking at the side of one of the flaps. It's incredible that literally at the bottom of this picture, we're basically looking through plasma, which is just absolutely mind-blowing.
Wild, very wild. Now we are expecting entry to begin here in about 30 seconds or so. Entry to splashdown is expected to last about 6 minutes long. And that flip maneuver should occur around about 10 minutes before splashdown. And such incredible views that we're getting.
Approaching peak heating region.
Great call outs there.
Yeah, these views are absolutely astounding.
Nose temperatures continue to rise within expected region.
And in your bottom right-hand corner, you can also follow along with the altitude of ship as it's returning back to Earth.
So once again, this view is basically looking down into the plasma blanket that is building up around the exterior of Starship. It is traveling, as you can see on your screen. You can look in the bottom right-hand corner and see how fast it's going, how high it is, as well as the general orientation. Again, we're seeing a lot more stability, a lot more control here on this flight, which is great. It shows that the iterations, the learning...
Starship is now in expected peak heating region.
All right, great news there, telling us that this is basically the hottest point that Starship should get during its reentry. Now, the heat shield is working with the atmosphere for some free braking, okay? The atmosphere is helping to slow the Starship down.
Yeah, exactly. We're not using any engines or thrust to slow the vehicle down. Exactly what Kate mentioned. We're just using the atmosphere and those heat shield tiles protecting the vehicle as it's coming through that high heat temperature.
Yeah. Now, this is another one of those moments that we have been waiting for. Right now, the ship is currently re-entering the Earth's atmosphere, and by all looks and all call-outs that we're hearing on the net, it is doing pretty well. Now, we do not plan to recover the spacecraft today, but rapid and reliable reusability is the ultimate goal.
And just pausing to just take in this incredible new and different view that we're seeing. We did get a similar view in Flight 3, but again, the vehicle did lose a little bit of its control, attitude control, and this is a very stable view. This is great. This is exactly what we want, and we are hearing that we're getting expected call-outs.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Starship is seeing half a G of acceleration, remains on a good entry trajectory.
You know, it's incredible to look at this photo and wonder, wait, is it real? Is it frozen? We can see so I was just going to say
Those temperatures have stopped increasing.
Oh, that is great news. The temperature is no longer building. But I was saying, we have a little bit of indication there. We can see that streaking occurs and tells us that this is indeed a true view. So once again, we are looking basically through the plasma that is building up around the exterior of the ship.
And I still cannot get over that we are getting a live view of re-entry right now, live on your screen. Again, we've said this over and over, but all thanks to Starlink. We are able to use Starlink in space, which we're getting this incredible data. And not only just the data from the sensors, but getting live imagery of what is actually happening, which is great, which we've never been able to do live before.
Right. Now, just a quick future outlook here. So in about, let's see, at T plus about 1 hour and 2 minutes, we should hear a call out for entry transonic. That means that the ship is going near the speed of sound. And then about a minute after that, we'll hear another call out saying entry subsonic, meaning that the ship is going below the speed of sound. So these are all continued indications that the atmosphere, right, as the ship comes back down, it is getting through the more dense part of the atmosphere, and that atmosphere is helping to push against the vehicle, and those heat shields are protecting the vehicle during this high heat period.
Yeah, Kate and Jesse, we're starting to see as the atmosphere gets denser, you're starting to see a few more particles make an appearance in the plasma there. You can see you're looking down at the aft end of the ship in the top left, and you're seeing essentially the flame build up as we go through reentry. You've been hearing the call outs, they're tracking things like temperatures in the nose cone, and those were right where we modeled them to be, which is really cool to see and to see in real time. But we're coming up, we're at about 67 kilometers in altitude. Our last signal with the ship on flight 3 was at 65, so we should be making it past that point shortly. Obviously, as you guys pointed out, we're in a much better control this time as we re-entered in the right attitude, and our flaps have been steering the way so far. Once we get through transonic, that's when you've got essentially
Raptor landing bird.
Different areas around the vehicle where the air is either moving faster or slower than the speed of sound. We'll eventually get to subsonic, which we have some experience with. We did in our suborbital campaign.
Start of Raptor chill.
And then Starship will
landing bird.
eventually get down to its terminal velocity as it's floating down to the water. That's just about 200 miles an hour or so. We are hearing that we're starting to chill some of the engines as we are, if we make it all the way down to the water, still going to attempt a landing burn, but still a ways to go. We're at about 64 kilometers in altitude right now. We made it through what's expected to be the peak heating, but now we're going to start encountering increased pressures as the atmosphere gets thicker and thicker. So we're at 63 kilometers, so we've already made it farther than we did on our last flight when that last signal was coming at 65 kilometers. So again, what we're really looking at here is the performance of the heat shield, of the flaps, of the seals in the flaps. There's just a whole bunch of different areas that we're keeping a really close eye on as we re-enter.
Starship remains on a good entry trajectory.
And looking like we're still on a good trajectory. If you're seeing little camera moves, that's the flap moving as it continues to maintain the attitude of the vehicle as it re-enters. And I mean, not just camera views, but we've got sensors inside the ship. We've got those sensors down at the very aft end of the vehicle where we pointed out we had some intentionally missing tiles, where we've got some sensors looking at just how hot it's getting around there. We intentionally put those in essentially the least critical part of the heat shield, where if you had any kind of a breach, it wouldn't be great for reusability, but wouldn't be critical for actual making it through the reentry into the landing. "58 kilometers, we're continuing to descend. Again, right now we are over the Indian Ocean. We're actually getting closer and closer to that expected splashdown point, which is just to the off the northwest corner of Australia. And if you keep an eye on our speed, the speed is dropping. We're hitting the thicker part of the atmosphere now. The speed's going to start dropping precipitously. We're going to start getting to transonic pretty soon, and then after that we'll get into subsonic, where we're moving less than the speed of sound. But wow, what a light show so far.
External temperatures are starting to come down.
Again, this camera view is looking right at one of the forward flaps. And we're strategically putting some cameras around the vehicle to just look at the different areas. Looks like we got the flap starting to come apart a little.
Yeah, it does appear that we have a little bit of burn through there. We can see pieces of the vehicle flying off. What a show it has been. It's been like watching Interstellar or something.
This is wild to see this, but the ship is still coming down, which is incredible to see.
How far can it go? That is the question.
Keep your eye on the altitude in the bottom right-hand corner. We're at 54 kilometers right now.
Now, ultimately, the data is the payload today. We've been saying it multiple times. Our teams are sitting, reviewing this data live, learning where the hot spots are. As you can see, there's an obvious hot spot there with the flap, and learning how we can improve this design. The goal was to get as far through this high heat re-entry as possible. Ideally, we'd love to make it all the way down and perform that landing burn and flip maneuver, but we may not get that far today. We will see.
Again, this is a test, and we are gathering as much data as possible, visual data as well, which we can see here. We are getting a lot of debris covering the camera on your screen, but we can still see some of those sparks and flames from that high heat as ship is making its way back down to Earth.
Ship now at 50 kilometers and closing. The good news is we still got, looks like that camera lens just cracked. It's safe to say ship's getting a little beat up, but that's to be expected on a test flight. We are still learning how to improve the ship for total survival and recovery of the high heat reentry.
I'm honestly impressed that we're still getting this live view despite how much debris is coming off of this flap right now.
The fact that we've got it is good news. And I may have jinxed it. I apologize. Look at that. It's back.
We are still going.
And the teams here at SpaceX are excited, as you can tell by the cheering behind us. There's still a sizable crowd here at Mission Control Center, Hawthorne.
A splashdown is expected in just about 4 minutes from now. And we're still moving. We still have live views. Starlink is doing an incredible job.
Maximum entry dynamic pressure. External temperatures are dropping.
Okay, good news. Those external pressures are dropping. The question is, how much the ship is left? We can't really tell. We can still see some of that particulate coming off. And unfortunately, we do have a cracked camera lens. But for any photographers out there and videographers, we know that's part of the gig sometimes.
Yeah, and you can see that the speed is rapidly slowing down. That's actually really great news for us. We want the vehicle to be slowing down before it splashes down into the ocean. That'll help set us up for that flip maneuver, engines first down into the water.
Exactly. So we have seen this flip maneuver demonstrated on previous high altitude flight tests like serial number 8. Oh, more views. Or I should say, more light coming through the view that we have through that cracked and dirtied lens there. But yeah, so we're hoping that this flip maneuver, that we can pull it off as soon as we get those views back. If we can get them, if the ship is still around, we will bring it back to you.
Vehicle has passed maximum dynamic pressure.
That is great news. Maximum dynamic pressure being the moment in which the vehicle experiences the greatest amount of aerodynamic pressure. Speed still dropping. We're now at 37 kilometers above the ocean. Just like Flight 3, we are targeting a splashdown in the water in the Indian Ocean.
And we don't have a live view right now, but because we're still getting data and telemetry, that does tell us that ship is still doing okay, at least. And there we got that live view back. The crowd very excited to see that view, despite not being able to see very much.
The fact that it's there tells us the ship is still alive.
Yes, and collecting data, continuing to collect data as we get closer and closer to Earth.
Yes, now 30 kilometers, now 29 above the
Starship
Indian
is
Ocean.
at 30 kilometers altitude, Mach 2.
Sounds like the vehicle's traveling, as we just heard, Mach 2, which is, looks like we might, I thought maybe it might clear up. It is a little bit, now at T plus 1 hour, 3 minutes and 13 seconds into Starship Flight 4, hoping that the ship can hang on. It's probably potentially hanging on by a couple of bolts and threads, but it's still going, and that is excellent news.
That deceleration is looking incredible. We're about to go under 1,000 kilometers per hour.
Yeah.
Starship is at 20 kilometers altitude.
Now, keep in mind that even though we can't see anything, the data itself is what we really are.
Starship is subsonic.
Subsonic, they're telling us it's traveling below the speed of sound. That movement means the flaps are actuating. I think we can see something. This is a nail biter. But we are, unfortunately, we can't see through the lens, but we're still getting the feed. Starship is now 11 kilometers over the ocean. All this data is incredibly important, even if, it breaks up right now. Okay, we can see that flap actuating through the glass.
Starship is passing through 10 kilometers altitude.
Okay, the next milestone will be initiation of the flip maneuver and landing burn. Keep an eye on the bottom right corner of your screen for those 3 center engines to relight. They will gimbal or angle so that the ship flips itself back up vertical and hopefully lands in a vertical position.
And the crowd is very excited to get this view of that flap still maneuvering.
Starship is passing through 5 kilometers altitude.
This is incredible. We're getting very close to splashdown.
These fireflies are such a good sign of life right now. We wish we could see more, but we'll take it.
Starship is at 2 kilometers altitude, terminal velocity.
Landing burn startup for Starship.
All right, good news there.
Nominal timber pressure.
Landing burn startup.
Starship is in landing burn.
Landing burn shutdown.
The landing burn shutdown was commanded. Wow. I mean, it was a little bit of use your imagination as you were going down with what we could actually see, but we were able to hear the ship did its landing burn. It sounded
Starship
like we might have got
shutdown.
2 engines. And there's the final call for landing burn shutdown, but we'll go back through all the data, but we did get confirmation that a landing burn took place. Starship made it through re-entry and did its first ever landing burn. from South Texas to the other side of the earth. Starship is in the water. What a day. What a day, guys. Yeah. That was absolutely incredible. We we got views pretty much the whole way down. Analysis said it could do it. We weren't sure if it was going to be able to happen, but Starlink powered through, and we were able to get signal. We started to get some debris on the cameras and everything, but we were able to see it. So, I mean, what a day. Just recapping, everything started off today. We lifted off from here in Starbase just about an hour ago. It feels like a lifetime. Successful super heavy ascent, boost back, and its own splashdown in the Gulf. Ship made it to space, kept its attitude. Successful re-entry through peak heating. We got to see it under flap control through the atmosphere, and we got call out of our first ever ship landing burn after a launch into space. So just really incredible. So I'm going to take some time to collect myself, but wow, that was incredible. I can't wait for the next one. Over to you guys.
It was so loud here. I haven't heard the crowd get that loud probably since liftoff of Flight 1, honestly.
That was incredible. Congratulations to our teammates, to everyone who supported the Starship program. Thanks to all of our future customers for your support. And we'd also like to thank the people of Cameron County, Texas, as well as the Coast Guard, the Federal Aviation Administration, and the government of Mexico. And since Starship got a little bit toasty from that extreme heat of reentry, and we've got our very own Starship right here, let's have a toast of our own.
I've been waiting all morning for this.
Okay, may I?
Light me up. Yeah. Just like Starship, I like this toasty.
I'm keeping this.
Now, we've got s'more Starship.
8, 7, 6,